have it. The ayes have it. Thank you. We will now proceed to the third bill of the day.
British Citizenship, Northern Ireland Bill, second reading.
Mr. Gavin Robinson.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I beg to move that this bill now be read a second time. Madam Deputy Speaker, as a backbencher, the opportunity to table legislation of my own, to have the opportunity to proceed in this way, with leave of the House, is rare. Yes, we may question, challenge and probe, consider, support or oppose, but as a legislator, the ability to legislate is constrained by the luck of the draw, the wisdom of Solomon and the patience of Job. For 9 years I have dutifully signed the private member's ballot book and thought not another moment about it. And then I saw you take that ball, Madam Deputy Speaker, and read that number. Today, in securing this opportunity, I wish to place on record my appreciation for the House staff, the Library, the Home Office Minister and his officials, and the courteous way and engaging way in which he has met with me, Government Whips, His Majesty's Opposition and Members of Parliament representing all parties from Northern Ireland who have offered their support. And to the Minister and his officials, I know at times what started off to be courteous might have been frustrating to see my name pop up in the inbox, but I greatly appreciate your fortitude and your forbearance. More particularly, however, Madam Deputy Speaker, I claim no creativity or ingenuity around the bill itself. In moving the second reading of this British Citizenship Northern Ireland Bill, I wish to place on record my appreciation for colleagues past and present who have sought to secure this important principal change to laws governing citizenship of the United Kingdom for individuals inherently of these islands. Even a cursory glance at the House of Commons Library's briefing paper highlights that this has been a long and an arduous road. My colleague from the other place, Lord Hay of Ballyoor, commented last year that this conundrum was first raised in this House, the House of Commons, in 1985, which, to put it into context, was before my first birthday. For a decade now, he has passionately been an advocate for the changes outlined in this bill. In doing so, he has sought to complement and support the sustained and the unparalleled efforts of my honourable friend, the member for East Londonderry. A member of this House since 2001, he has consistently, and some might say with characteristic fervour, relentlessly tabled questions, pursued debates, encouraged ministers, and expertly tilled the ground that makes this so fertile today. His labour, Madam Deputy Speaker, has not been in vain. Over the years, he collected the support of colleagues from across the political spectrum, within the Conservative Party, the Labour Party, the Ulster Unionists, the SDLP and the Alliance Party. Madam Deputy Speaker, the essence of this bill is this. Colleagues will recognise, should recognise, that through the Belfast Agreement, efforts were there that sought to address issues of identity. Whilst it was accepted and acknowledged that Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom was constitutionally settled, those with a competing aspiration could not only avail of Irish identity, the Republic of Ireland government afforded them the opportunity to attain Irish citizenship. Certainly.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way, and I congratulate him on bringing forward this important bill. Would my honourable friend agree that this affects people's lives? This is about their identity, their everyday lives, and their right to have this citizenship. Should not be brought into question, given the fact that we have these important historic links across both Ireland and Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. It's vitally important that this, which is so important to their individual lives, that we allow this bill to proceed.
Grateful to the honourable gentleman, the honourable friend, for that contribution. I agree with him entirely, and I'm going to hopefully draw upon some of those points entirely about our historic links, our historic connections and connections right to this very day. Having mentioned that people in Northern Ireland have been offered the opportunity to attain Irish citizenship by the Republic of Ireland government, it is true that some hold that citizenship singularly, whilst others happily enjoy dual citizenship of both the United Kingdom and the Republic of Ireland. What was not settled at that time, however, was reciprocation in the other direction. This Parliament will know that our history and relationship is intertwined, and this bill seeks to provide the final piece of that relational jigsaw. Anyone born in the Republic of Ireland but who lives within the United Kingdom and satisfies a residency test should be able to avail of UK citizenship. For those who say, sure, just apply for naturalisation in the normal way, fail to recognise or respond to the special relationship that our nations have. From 1801, our nations were one. The United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland accorded the same citizenship protections to us all. When partition occurred in 1921, the rights of those resident within then the Irish Free State to avail of UK citizenship was contained and continued within their Dominion status. It was only when the Irish Republic was created and the British Nationality Act of 1948 came into effect the following year that those entitlements were lost. Since 1949, that means that anyone born in the Republic of Ireland, but who has since lived in, worked in, and contributed to the United Kingdom all of their lives, are still not able to attain British citizenship in the way that their forefathers did. As a proud Ulsterman, I remind colleagues that my province contains 9 counties, though only 6 of them are within the United Kingdom. Though they did so before and have continued to do so since, the Troubles in Northern Ireland perhaps most acutely provided a catalyst for families in Donegal and in Monaghan and in Cavan to move across the border to be with other relatives. Take, for example, as I mentioned, my friend from the other place, the Lord Hay of Ballior. Though I mentioned him before, his lineage perhaps best illustrates the point that I am trying to make. He was born in April 1950. He was born in Donegal, yet has lived for the overwhelming majority of his life in Londonderry, Northern Ireland. He served on his local council from 1981. He was elected to the Northern Ireland Assembly in 1998, and he served as the Speaker of the Northern Ireland Assembly from 2007 to 2014. That year, he was elevated to the House of Lords, and to this day remains a peer of this realm and a legislator in our Parliament, yet he isn't a British citizen. And the question is this: should anyone in that position, serving practically, materially and productively, be expected to pay a naturalisation fee of £1,580 and complete a life in the UK citizenship test? The notion that he or anyone in similar circumstances, but a legislator of this Parliament, should have to complete a life in the UK citizenship test does not make sense. It would be offensive to some of those individuals and contrary to the spirit of reciprocation offered through the Belfast Agreement in 1998, blind to our history and ignorant of the legal reality. We enjoy a common travel area already between our nations. Irish citizens moving throughout the United Kingdom are already exempt from immigration formalities. They enjoy a range of related rights to work, vote, study, access to education and healthcare, as if they were already UK citizens. To quote the former Labour MP for Thurrock and a great friend of Northern Ireland, Andrew McKinley, when he debated this point in this House in 2009, he said, "We have an opportunity, which the House will probably not have for some years, to right a wrong, provide parity of treatment for people who are Irish and allow them to identify with their Britishness." I hope we heard that, which this House will probably not have again for some years. Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, 15 years later, I hope we can finally right that wrong. This isn't a coercive move. Nothing contained within this bill requires somebody to avail of citizenship should that not be their desire. Some will conclude that with the same rights and entitlements already, it is unnecessary. We also know through library research that some proceed to pay the naturalisation fee and complete a life in the UK test, no matter how offensive or inappropriate that may appear. But each year the number remains in single figures, if any. We also know from 2021 census figures in Northern Ireland that there are some 40,400 people living in Northern Ireland who were born in the Republic of Ireland. Furthermore, we know that circa 32,000 of them were born after 1948 and therefore could avail of this bill. 27,000 of those people currently hold a non-UK passport, with the remainder split evenly between those holding a UK passport or those who continue to hold none. It will be clear from the tenor of this speech, Madam Deputy Speaker, that both the bill and my interest lies in those who live in Northern Ireland and were disenfranchised of their citizenship from 1949 onwards. I appreciate, however, that through discussions with Government that this bill should this bill proceed, they believe it could be enhanced with the removal of the restrictive scope that attached to either the year of commencement or the geographical location of Northern Ireland. I confirm my willingness to assent in both regards. UK citizenship, and I say this firmly as a Unionist, UK citizenship in principle should apply across the United Kingdom and need not be satisfied solely through the lens of our province. In 2021, the Northern Ireland Affairs Select Committee published an inquiry on this issue, and it concluded in the following terms: the Home Office must understand the historical connection between the United Kingdom and the Republic of Ireland, the personal ties, the relationships, the geopolitical realities, and the movement of people that prevail between the two countries today. They continued, citizenship issues will not be addressed to the satisfaction of all traditions, whilst the Home Office treats Ireland and the rest of the world as if they were an amalgam. Instead, we need bespoke, granular solutions. Abolishing the fee for citizens to naturalise as British would be a start. The need to complete the life in the UK test seems irrelevant and offensive, and attendance at the citizenship ceremony should be optional. Those were the conclusions of the Northern Ireland Affairs Select Committee, Madam Deputy Speaker. And in sharing those with you, I wish to conclude simply with gratitude to you and to colleagues. I believe this bill offers a great opportunity to attain, though this is only the first hurdle of many, a practical conclusion to a long-standing, principled, constitutionally and politically important campaign. And with that, Madam Deputy Speaker, I commend this, my private member's bill, to the House.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Fiona Bruce.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. At the heart of this bill and debate is a real and sensitive issue. Whilst the particular subject of the bill impacts residents in Northern Ireland, the issues around identity and citizenship affect us all. And first, I want to acknowledge the case being made by my honourable friend, as I always call him and his colleagues, because we're so often on the same side of debates in this House. And indeed we will be today. I support his bill. I respect the point he's making. He has constituents who identify as British but have an Irish passport simply because they're being born on the other side of an open border. They're then left with the only option to naturalise. This is sensitive to people who've grown up for decades identifying as British. For them, the holding of a British passport and not an Irish passport is of profound and deep importance, to reflect that their identity should be consistent with their citizenship. I also recognise that there are specific conditions laid down in law and the Belfast Good Friday Agreements which shape the administrative landscape of Northern Ireland with the Republic of Ireland, an open border without immigration controls, a common travel area, and no restrictions on working or living in the United Kingdom. Government needs to apply their administrative rules about routes to British citizenship fairly for all residents in the UK, whether living in Coleraine or Congleton. And in discussing this issue, as I've touched on, we need to be clear about what we mean generally by national identity and citizenship. National identity encompasses the shared values, culture, history and traditions that bind individuals within a nation. It's a profound sense of belonging and loyalty that goes beyond legalities, forming the foundation of our unity as a people. On the other hand, the administrative and legal status of citizenship is a formal recognition granted by the state. It involves adherence to specific laws, rights and duties, often outlined in a constitution or legal framework. Citizenship is a legal concept that provides individuals with certain rights and responsibilities within the borders of a nation. So while national identity fosters a deep emotional connection, citizenship is a practical framework which governs our interactions within the state. Actually, whether my honourable friend's bill is successful or not, it won't change the fundamental nature, therefore, of his constituents' sense of British identity, and also the rights and freedoms under the Belfast Good Friday Agreement, which gives the freedom for people of Northern Ireland to identify as being British or Irish, to coexist and actually complement Britishness. However, I am very sympathetic to my honourable friend's case and acknowledge that a key outworking of being British involves a sense of allegiance which is encapsulated by holding a British passport in one's hands. And indeed, I too have a great sense of pride, and I travel frequently abroad in my role as the Prime Minister's Special Envoy for Freedom of Religion and Belief, and I have a great sense of pride every time I hold that passport in my hand. So I understand the importance of others being able to do so. And my honourable friend has put forward a bill that makes sense, which always helps. He always speaks sense. Its clauses make clear that we're not dealing with a situation comparable for, say, the residents of Coleraine and Congleton who want to apply for citizenship having been born outside of the UK. The requirements of Section 4AA mean it's specific to a person in Northern Ireland who has been resident pretty much continuously for a preceding period of 5 years. And to answer my own point regarding the need to satisfy administrative fairness across the UK, the qualifying period of 5 years residency is equivalent to other applications for citizenship that could be made in Congleton. I'm therefore supportive of this bill.
I have no further takers. Shadow Minister Stephen Kinnock.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker. As the Honourable Member for Belfast East has so eloquently explained, the issue at the heart of this debate is a fairly simple one, that notwithstanding commitments made by the UK and Irish governments in the Good Friday Agreement more than 25 years ago, questions about eligibility and access to citizenship rights for many people in Northern Ireland remain unresolved. The Honourable Member argues with conviction that the differential treatment of people, depending on whether they were born in Northern Ireland or the Republic, under British nationality law, is unfair and should be addressed. Along with his colleagues, he has argued for long-standing residents of Northern Ireland who were born in the Republic after the 31st of December 1948 to be recognised as citizens of the UK if they consider themselves to be such, without the need to undertake a lengthy and costly process of applying to the Home Office for naturalisation. These arguments have been heard in this House many times before. Indeed, I believe the Honourable Member for East Londonderry introduced a private member's bill along similar lines to this one as long ago as 2005. Nor have members of his party been the only ones to have recognised the strength of feeling among many in Northern Ireland on this issue. In 2021, the Northern Ireland Affairs Committee published a short report which concluded that the government should abolish the naturalisation fee charged to Irish applicants who wish to naturalise as British citizens. The fees for registration or naturalisation, it should be pointed out, are currently in the region of £1,500 per person, which is not by any means an insignificant sum. In its response to the committee's report, the government announced that it would not be fair to set such fees at different levels depending on nationality, ignoring the fact that there is already special recognition of the status of Irish nationals across the UK's immigration system. The government also argued that naturalisation and citizenship fees are an important means by which the Home Office seeks to maintain the financial sustainability of the immigration system. That may not in itself be an unreasonable position, but I do wonder whether the amounts of revenue involved are really all that significant to the Home Office in the context of an annual budget which is in excess of £20 billion. As has been explained, this bill establishes a separate, standalone route to British citizenship for Irish nationals born after 1948 who have been resident in Northern Ireland and hence in the UK for significant periods of time. The explanatory notes state that application fees for the proposed new route would need to be agreed and set in secondary fees legislation, taking into account financial implications. So there appears to be no expectation of a blanket fee exemption for applicants under the new rules. On that basis, it might be helpful for the House if the Minister could perhaps confirm, assuming that the government does support the bill, what criteria will be used in setting the level of application fees under the new system. Will the goals remain the same as those previously set out by the government, which I've already quoted, with respect to maintaining parity between citizenship and naturalisation applications across all nationalities? And what provisions, if any, does the government intend to make for individual exemptions to the usual fees under the new system, assuming that is introduced? In the same report that I cited earlier, the Northern Ireland Affairs Committee also concluded that, in addition to the fees, the mandatory Life in the UK test and requirement to attend a citizenship ceremony should also be waived for Irish citizens seeking naturalisation in the UK. In its response to the committee, the government insisted that it was right to maintain these requirements for all applications and to limit the scope for exemptions to the special circumstances of a particular case, for example, those who have long-term health reasons which would preclude their attendance. This response, which was published in January 2022, added that, and I quote, "In order to continue with ceremonies during the pandemic, we worked with local authorities to develop and deliver virtual ceremonies, and we will assess their ongoing use as this immediate need reduces. They may be retained to allow a more inclusive approach for those who, due to long-term issues, might otherwise be excluded." If, as I understand, the government does not plan to oppose this bill, it would be helpful in light of these long-standing concerns which have been raised over the years with respect to the Life in the UK testing and ceremony requirements, if the Minister could please confirm whether he envisages making specific provision to address these issues within the proposed new route to citizenship which the bill envisages. Madam Deputy Speaker, on behalf of His Majesty's Opposition, I would just say in closing that the Honourable Member has put forward strong and persuasive arguments in support of his bill. The government's support will, I hope, be welcomed by members who represent Northern Ireland's communities in this House, and on behalf of His Majesty's Opposition, I am happy to add my party's support to this bill as well. Thank you.
Minister Tom Pursglove.
Well, thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And can I just start by congratulating my honourable friend, the honourable gentleman for Belfast East, for his success in the ballot. His 9 years of trying have yielded a positive result, and it's terrific that we are able to debate this bill today, and also I'm very appreciative to him for bringing attention to this important issue of application processes for Irish nationals to become British citizens, and pleased to confirm that the bill has the support of the government, subject to some proposed changes at committee stage, which I will address. And it's been a pleasure to work constructively with him to date on these points, and I think he's eloquently set out the arguments and the rationale for the bill that we are debating today. And he's also right to have highlighted the fact that the bill responds, I think, very directly to so many of the challenges raised by the Northern Ireland Affairs Committee, which he quoted directly from, and their report in relation to this. And it's in that spirit that I'm pleased that we have been engaging with the honourable gentleman, and he is in agreement with the necessary changes that we require to make in order to take this bill forward into its committee stage and beyond. And that will mean that the current version of the bill, which will go to a vote today, will be revised at committee stage, of course, with members able to express their views and opinions on those amendments, and of course to be able to debate and then vote on them in the usual way. But what that will mean is that the bill will become one which is marginally broader and more inclusive. It will firstly be available to Irish nationals, regardless of how they became Irish, and not just those born in Ireland. Secondly, it will not have a requirement that an Irish national must have been born after a certain date. Thirdly, qualifying residents can be from any part of the United Kingdom and not just Northern Ireland. We're confident that this would both address equality concerns with the version of the bill currently before the House, but also still benefit those that the Honourable Member for Belfast East wanted to cover. The other requirements before the House today will not change. The Government is clear in its support for the underlying principle of the bill and will work with the Honourable Gentleman to produce an amended version of the bill for committee stage. When those changes have been made, the bill will enjoy the full support of the Government. We're confident that the amended route will not undermine the integrity of the system. It's about introducing a more appropriate route for people who could otherwise seek to naturalise. It is, of course, possible that the route may yet be used proportionately more by people resident in Northern Ireland, but we think it's important that British citizenship reflects ties to the whole of the United Kingdom and not just one constituent part. It's our belief that a dedicated route for Irish citizens would reduce the burden for applicants, creating a more straightforward route to becoming a British citizen. This would potentially also allow for a lower fee to be charged, although no firm decision on that has been made at this point, and would be part of the later secondary legislation that would need to be made through the fees order should the bill attain royal assent. I suspect that he will be very keen to have conversations with me on that point. That is something that I am most definitely willing to engage constructively around as we take the bill forward through its various stages. And to respond as well very directly to the Shadow Minister on the point about the Life in the UK test, that would not be a requirement going forward with this bill in place, and I think that it's just important to make clear that particular aspect on the record this afternoon. I'd like to just once again, in concluding, congratulate the Honourable Gentleman on his success in the ballot and for helping the Government to find a way to correct this issue in our nationality system, and I'm incredibly grateful to him for the constructive and good-natured way in which he always conducts his business in the House, but particularly in relation to this matter, working both with myself and, of course, with officials. And the bill will help reaffirm and reflect the unique position of Irish nationals in the UK and make a real, credible difference to those Irish nationals who wish to also be British citizens. As I've said, if the suggested amendments to the bill are made in committee, we firmly support the bill, and we most definitely wish it well as it travels through the House. And again, just conclude by saying that I congratulate my honourable friend and very much look forward to working with him moving forward.
Gavin Robinson.
With leave of the House, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm very appreciative for all of the contributions that have been made. And just reflecting on the private member's ballot itself, not only did I sign 9 years in a row, I signed the same number 9 years in a row, 322 for anyone that's interested. But there you are. Look, I greatly appreciate the support of the Honourable Lady for Congleton, and to dispel the myths of any cynics out there, I hope to be in a position to support her private member's bill in a moment or so's time, but it wasn't conditional on what she said in this, because hers is similarly but differently as principled as mine. I'm grateful for the intervention as well from the Honourable Member for Stoke-on-Trent South. To the Shadow Minister, I am grateful for the contribution that he made, and I hope through my contribution he appreciated that there was no ownership of mine in this. I was fairly reflecting that this has been a long-standing campaign from a number of colleagues of mine, and indeed from members across the House, including colleagues of his. He perceptively raised the issue on fees, and the Minister graciously indicated that that is a discussion yet to be had, but it will be a secondary provision should this bill proceed. The Minister knows very clearly where I shall start in that constructive discussion, and I suspect the Minister won't start in the same place, and hopefully we can get a pragmatic. But it's good for the Minister at least to know that the opposition are in a sensible place at the start of that discussion too, and just always bear that in mind, I say jestingly. Madam Deputy Speaker, the Minister himself, it has been a pleasure. He has added further context to my reference earlier to the forbearance of officials and all of those who have had to engage with me in the discussion of this bill and some of the complexities around it. But of course, as I said in my contribution, what the Minister has outlined causes me no difficulty whatsoever from a Unionist perspective. I am totally content with where the government believe this should go, but the constraints around an earlier published title meant that we have had to go through a sort of curvier route, hopefully to the same destination. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm very grateful to have had this opportunity. I look forward to continuing the engagement with officials, and I trust we'll be able to land this, because it was only in 2009, 15 years ago, when a former Labour MP in this House said, we need to take this opportunity now because it may not come back for some time to come.
Thank you. What a good-natured and constructive debate we've had. So, the question is that the bill be now read the second time. As members of that opinion, say aye. Aye. On the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Thank you. And so we proceed to the fourth bill.